Well, good morning. That little nifty countdown clock didn't work very well, did it? Just said 9 seconds. You try new things, and sometimes it doesn't work. Good morning. Welcome to Rick Helps Real Estate Show. This morning, we're going to look at numbers and try to figure out if they're declining. The purpose of this show is just to share Arizona data with you so that you can learn it along with me. I think Jim told me to take the little red pill this morning, so I got to talk to him about that. If it'll make me taller and better looking, I will. I actually want at the end of the video to talk a little bit about predicting the market long term and what we see and what my view of where real estate's going is and why it probably doesn't even matter. But we want to take a look at what's going on in our market today, because today we have 6,600 homes on the market. That's about 100 higher than last week. 4,287 of them were listed over the past 7 days, of which 3,837 went under contract. It's a difference of 450. And here's what we're seeing. You can see the blue line there is that listings are outpacing homes going under contract. And I put this red line in to illustrate where we are today versus where we were. And the difference in these numbers are really small. And that's why when somebody says, well, housing's going to crash, I said, well, I don't see it yet. I'm just not seeing any numbers that tell me that at all, because these numbers are pretty small. So we were sitting there, we were kind of rocking along with 4,200 homes coming on and 4,200 homes going under contract. Now we're looking at about 4,200 homes coming on and only 3,800 going under contract. That's only a difference of 450. In a market with this many homes, it's not going to make that big of a difference. It's still telling you that we're pretty much eating up the new listings that are coming on a weekly basis, and we're only shy by less than 500 homes. That is not a brisk market, but it ain't bad. And so we're going to look at numbers and try to see how everybody else is tracking sales, because, there's some changes out there. And, we look right here at MBS Live, which is... it says that there are indications that prices are beginning to stabilize. The national increase from May to June was 2.3%, the same growth as we see from April to May. CoreLogic's forecast is for home price index to gain 0.07% from June to July 21 and will grow by 3.2% from June 21 to June 22. The company says while affordability challenge intensifying, low mortgage rates, rising savings, and an improving labor market are helping to keep home ownership within reach for many prospective buyers. However, CoreLogic projects home price gains may slow over the next 12 months as demand moderates and for sale inventory rises. How accurate were they last time? Well, I dug up an old one here. Here's one. This was done in 2019, I think, or 2020. And what they're saying here, HPI forecast shows the U.S. index will tumble 6.6% from May 20 to May 2021, with all states expected to experience a decline. They missed that one by over 27%. So, consistency is key. So we've got to keep looking and see, what else they're predicting. But, you can get your news in a million different places. I mean, here's one here that is, this one's the Housing Bubble blog. And there's a comment from Linwood, Washington. Local real estate market took a breather from about Father's Day, June 20th to mid-July, said George Cottle, longtime agent in Linwood. It was snoozeville for a while on the supply side. There's a glimmer of hope. The number of Puget Sound area listings are up 14% in recent months, according to the Northwest Multiple Listing Service. We're seeing the same thing. Our inventory is going up as well. So how much is it going up? Well, here's pending home sales index. This is a national one from the National Association of Realtors. They haven't been real accurate either. They tend to lag a little bit. This is June. But they've been accurate as far as, telling you the history of what's going on. So here's the index. It's saying that June is 112 and July was 115. April was, this is June. This is May. That's April. And then you get to the regional sales. What they're showing is regional pending sales. That's a home that's under contract. And you look at the West, and we're actually up. So it's not showing a decline. The South is up. The headline kind of indicates a decline, but these numbers are showing that there isn't a decline. Now, the Cromford Market Index, bear with me just a second here. I got to make a couple adjustments. So the Cromford Market Index, this is sales per month. Now, I had a seasonal question yesterday. Somebody asked me, they said, are sales dropping because it's summer? So I said, well, let me take a look. Because here we are here. This is July, and it's got number of records, 8,620. Here's June, 9,600. So you're down about 1,000 units, or 500 units, no, 1,000 units. So let me go to July here, 9,668. I think the real story in this chart is we do have seasonality in Phoenix. So let's look at it. So here's April at 8,801. This is 2018. Here's May, it's higher. June, a little lower. July, and then it starts slipping in August. September, it goes down. Does it do it again the next year? Yeah, April and May are the strongest. Everybody will tell you it's spring and it's March, but it doesn't look like it is. And then there's June, down a little bit. July, down. August, down. We go back into the next year, 2020. Now, keep in mind, I keep saying 2020 doesn't count because it was just a train wreck. But let's look at it. So you have here, May was pretty bad. Everything was still kind of crawling out. But then June took off. July was hot, 98.68. Started to come down a little bit in August. Went up September and October. So September and October, is it a trend that it keeps going up? Nope, not really. So what can we expect from what we see now? We really don't know. We're seeing that there is a slowdown in July, but it's not much slower than we've seen in past summer months. So we really can't glean anything from that data. Here is the number of closed listings that we have right now, and sales per month. Here's the chart. Well, it shows a real drop-off right here in August because it's only August 3rd. Of course, there's going to be a drop-off. But when we look at July right here, it's still above 110,000 or 10,000 units. And it's still higher than what we were rocking and rolling back here. So that doesn't show a huge, huge decline. And here's part of the problem. I know I keep showing this chart a million times, but inventory's rocking way down here. When I say that I don't see any numbers that indicate that we're going to be in trouble and see a crash, you really need to just look at this chart. This is the only chart you need to see. We can't have a crash with inventory numbers down here. You just can't. And while we're seeing sales backing off by only about 400 or 500 homes, and we're seeing inventory coming up, that we're crawling out of a basement, crawling out of a deep hole. We have to be up here. Actually, we've got to be higher than that. We've got to have inventory numbers that, and this chart, I don't believe will let me go too many more years higher than, yeah, they only go back 2017, 18. But we've got to be way above these numbers for things to even just normalize, just to balance. We're not going to have a balanced market as long as we're down here. We went through some of the numbers yesterday showing exactly where we were, but this has to go up. Until that happens, we're going to have pricing pressure. So CoreLogic is saying that next year we're going to only be up maybe 2%. Well, then they must be seeing numbers that say that the inventory is going to be back up to 2018 levels. Right now, I don't see it. So let me talk about projections for just a moment, because here's what you're going to see. When you go over to YouTube, you're going to see housing boom comes to an end. Banks, shock plans exposed. Prepare, the housing market's about to crash. Bad news for real estate. Millions of renters exposed as eviction moratorium ends. Foreclosures to start up again. I don't get the connection between the rental moratorium and foreclosures. I don't see it. If I do see it, it'll show up in the data. So here's a question from Tyler. Says, thoughts on the new moratorium? I think it's ridiculous. Look, if Congress is going to set out and say, okay, we're going to extend the rent moratorium again, then you better give some compensation for the landlords. because it's a contract between a renter and a landlord, and the Congress should not be interfering in individual contracts. As simple as that. But they've shown they don't really care about individual contracts. So that's my soapbox speech. I think it's terrible. I think it's terrible for them to even try to put together policies that change urban planning, local planning commissions. So getting back to predicting real estate over the long term, look, I do agree with Jim that I think this economy is propped up by the feds. And I think the debt bomb fuse has been lit, but I don't know how long the fuse is. I think we're in strong fiscal trouble, but I don't know how long that's going to go before things crack and burst. When I look at the real estate numbers and look at it locally, I don't see any indication between now and the next 6 months that we even have a scintilla of trouble. Nothing. It doesn't look like anything out there is indicating that things are falling apart. You can't have a move of just 500 units down in contracts and say, oh my gosh, here's the trouble. The rental moratorium, if renters get kicked out, there's probably going to be another renter move right back in, or the mom and pop landlords may say, I got to recoup some cash, they're going to sell the house. That'll get us more towards a balanced market. It's not that big of a number, folks. The foreclosures, if I look at the foreclosure chart, it doesn't even show up. There aren't any numbers up there, and there aren't any pre-foreclosures numbers. I'm not an economist, so my job on this channel is just to help and learn along with all of you on what our numbers look like today and what it means going forward. Mortgage applications dipped again. They only dipped about 1.5%, I think they're saying. Let me read it here. It says, the application volume 1.7% lower on a seasonally adjusted basis than the previous week. Not a big number. 1.7 versus last week. You're going to have mortgage applications drop by 10% to start to feel it in the market. 1.7. Who knows what that means? So there's a central bank is continuing to buy mortgage-backed securities at $40 billion a month. They even talked that they might start talking about pulling that back. And guess what happened? Interest rates went down. They went down. Everybody thought it was going to go up, and it didn't happen. I don't have a crystal ball. So we're going to look at these numbers together every morning, except tomorrow. Tomorrow I am flying up to see family, going up to Seattle. It's going to be 63 degrees and raining on Saturday. I'm actually looking forward to that. I may be on Friday with this guy who was in Wisconsin for a couple of weeks, and we're going to do a recap, providing I have decent Wi-Fi and a place to set up. Other than that, have a great Wednesday. Talk to you soon.